Welcome back, everyone. It's the weekend recap. We're Simply Bitcoin. We break down the news from Twitter, the daily fail, meme review, software releases, hardware releases, and the websites by plebs. We are diving into the numbers. Let's do it.
Number time. Number Time is brought to you by Bitcoin 2022. It's going to be the largest Bitcoin conference ever hosted in sunny Miami Beach, Florida. President Bukele of El Salvador is going to speak. Chad Saylor, lots of awesome speakers, and you can take advantage of the link down below for 10% off your tickets to Bitcoin 2022.
At the time of this recording, the block height is 720,100. The Bitcoin price, 35,520. Chain rewrite days, 733. Total public Lightning capacity, that's definitely a new all-time high, 3,359.15. Moscow time 28:15. Blocks to the halvening 119,900. The numbers.
Pretty good. Not bad.
Had a very spicy weekend, haven't we?
Oh man, that was brutal. Welcome to the Bitcoin roller coaster ride. I mean,
welcome to the show, huh?
They don't call it Bitcoin roller coaster for no reason. But if you're just stacking sats and you're zooming out and you're DCAing, which is what we advocate on this show, the price isn't important. Of course, you know, to quote what Newt said, the purchasing power of your Bitcoin is important, obviously at the end of the day. But how much is the cost for freedom? I know it sounds corny, but it's true. And if you hodl your Bitcoin for, I would say, a cycle, then, you know, these ups and downs don't really bother you as much. They still hurt. You know, losing years worth of salary in minutes is not a good feeling. But anyways, Phil, check this out. I have some stats that we could talk about.
Nice.
So this is
numbers.
Brains.com, right? It has a lot of mining data. Anyways, check this out. So the difficulty, right? And the difficulty is essentially how difficult is it to mine Bitcoin, right? The calculation that you're mining for becomes more difficult as more hash rate comes on the network to make sure that the network maintains that 10-minute block time. And the hash rate was increasing at such a rate that the difficulty actually hit a record high in Bitcoin's history. This is the difficulty back in May 24th. The difficulty was 25 million, and we just hit 26.5 million on Sunday, January 23rd, while the price took a tumble. And of course, right, and I've been telling you guys to pay attention to the hash rate, and the hash rate took a tumble because of that. Now, what would be really interesting, what would be signal, and we're going to follow this up this week, is if the hash rate keeps on going up even after the difficulty adjustment, right? So when the difficulty adjustment goes up like that, it makes it harder to mine Bitcoin. And when I say it makes it harder, it takes a little bit longer, you know, for your miner to find that said, you know, of course, if you're using a mining pool, you know, you're making a little bit less, right? And, you know, hopefully the difficulty goes up forever, just like the hash rate. You want that to go up forever. But as miners get more and more efficient, you know, that difficulty is just going to be a walk in the park if you have an S19 XP, right, compared to an S9, right? So, I don't know, just very interesting stuff. Let's see how this plays out. And that really was a big difficulty adjustment, which means that a lot of miners are going onto the network. I don't know, dude, it's very bullish, but the price isn't representing this bullishness, right? So, let's see what happens, Phil.
I don't know if this happens to you, but now every single time I hear forever, all I hear is forever, Laura. It's going up forever.
What is
and
that?
I know it doesn't.
Where's that from?
It's from Michael Saylor when he did the interviews with, I think Laura Shin possibly, or I could be wrong about the last name, but anyways, yeah, that, you know what? I guess we kind of should have expected the mining difficulty to peak out because the hash rate peaked out. And to your point, I'm going back to the conversations we've had, Nico, the conversations where we've talked about the hash rate being a leading indicator. So this is going to be tested, and it's going to be interesting because there's lag, right? Like this is something that we've discussed, right? Where, you know, I believe that there's some lag, and again, not speculating, just, you know, we're just shooting the shit here. Okay.
So what is that thing that you say? We're kibitzing.
We're committing. That's all, you know, like that's it, you know, but look, it's interesting. Now I'm very curious as to what that lag is and if it's reproducible. And of course, my monkey brain, okay, if we can reproduce this, is going to create a pattern out of it, and I'm going to decide, right? And I'm sure you may feel the same way. You're going to decide there's a pattern and we can follow it until it breaks. I mean, then we're like everyone else.
So I mean, like, but here's the thing, right? So I would be interested to see if the hash rate continues to go up even after the difficulty adjustment, right? Because the difficulty adjustment essentially creates an incentive or de-incentive to essentially make sure that the block time comes in at 10 minutes. Right?
So what is it? I have a question then. What would it mean to you right now, since the difficulty readjusted to an all-time high? What would it mean to you right now if the hash rate
kept going,
broke to a now new all-time high?
That's really bullish. And historically, the price tends to follow that, right? But if the difficulty adjustment hits and the price put the price aside, if the difficulty adjustment hits and the hash rate stays the same or kind of goes sideways or actually goes down, then that means that the hash rate just hit an all-time high because of the incentive of the previous difficulty, right? But if the difficulty remains the same, and of course it always adjusts every 2016 blocks, about every 2 weeks, right? But if the hash rate continues to go up, like it rebounds from because it took quite a bit of a tumble after the difficulty adjustment. But if it rebounds and continues to go up with this current difficulty, that means that there's more miners going on the network, which means, right, that people with a lot of capital, because it is expensive to mine nowadays, right, they're seeing a promising future in Bitcoin, right? And theoretically, the higher the hash rate, the higher Bitcoin becomes to computationally attack, right, to rewrite that chain. So to me, it's bullish, right? But again, it's what you said. I think that the price lags the hash rate, and again, it's just a theory. And this theory comes from my many years in Bitcoin and entering Bitcoin from the mining perspective. So I'm looking at this a little bit different than the TA guys. And, you know, and historically, when I seen the hash rate recover, the price tended to follow very quickly after. So let's see if I'm wrong. All right. This is a theory after all. You know, I could just be a monkey drawing lines, like you said.
We're going to have to see. But we like the theory. Right now, we like the theory.
Right now, it works, right? But look at Plan B, bro. Okay. Look at Plan B. 1 million followers and got it completely wrong.
So listen. In all fairness, if we have 98% down and 98% up, the theory holds. Okay? So 98% variance to the downside and to the upside. The pattern holds.
He's moving the goalpost right now. Like
there aren't any goalposts, Nico. There aren't any goalposts. It's just up and to the right. You know, that's what it is, man. It's just up.
He's gotten rid of them. You know, he went from December to. It's just so funny. This is why we don't speculate on the show. Anyways, Phil, it's time for the Daily Fail.
The Daily Fail is brought to you by Amber app. Check them out, amber.app. It is a Bitcoin stacking app by actual Bitcoiners. The link is down below.
Amber, the smart way to stack sats.
All right, everyone. We got tagged pretty quick on this one. We had some other fails, which we're going to cover after, but we figured we had to start. We had to start with this. This is just brutal. I mean, we've covered Bitboy before in the past, okay, with, you know, what he charges different shitcoin projects to advertise their quote-unquote technology. Anyways, this is a pretty brutal video. It's interesting, right? Look at the way he worded the tweet. You know, Bitcoin as a network will have to change. Do you agree? Well, listen to his own take in this video, and yeah, we're gonna have to talk about this a little after, Nico.
Look, here's a fact. Bitcoin's gonna have to change. Gonna have to change. At some point, it doesn't matter how clean that energy is. Bitcoin as a network will eventually have to change away from proof of work. So proof of stake is a much easier way. It doesn't take a lot of electricity to be able to bring the coins into the supply and send transactions. Proof of work is what we know as mining, solving complicated math problems is the long and the short of that. And it takes a lot of power. Now, it doesn't take nearly as much as they want you to think it takes, but it takes a lot more power compared to proof of stake. So look, I think eventually like proof of work is going to die. I do believe, I just think the environmental push and environmental calls, as stupid as I think they are, as ridiculous as I think they are, as much as I disagree with these narratives, they're just going to get too loud. If you have the European Union, if they were to actually ban proof of work mining, think about what that would mean. Look, here's a fact.
Nothing.
Bitcoin's gonna have to change.
There's not that much mining.
Okay.
Nothing, dude. There's not that much mining in Europe right now. Anyways, like if and again, like it's something that he doesn't understand. Like Bitcoin's meant to be attacked. This is meant to be attacked, and the incentive that mining provides, only by proof of work, can't be replaced by anything. And another thing, dude, it's that like I really dislike these people that have essentially contribute their success to Bitcoin, right? I don't say crypto, but to Bitcoin, because all those cryptos would not exist if it wasn't for Bitcoin. And essentially, he's doing the old meme that we say in Bitcoin so much. He's not new to Bitcoin, but I'm here to Bitcoin and I'm here to fix it, right? Bitcoin's proof of work and its energy usage is a feature and not a bug. I'm sorry, Phil, go ahead.
No, not at all. Not at all. I just wanted to point out, at the end of that video, did you hear what he said? So he explains that even though he doesn't agree with their narratives and he believes that they're wrong, we should just go along with it because they're getting too loud.
Who's paying him? Right.
Like that is some of the most, ridiculous pushover nonsense. I mean, are you kidding me? So what? So we should switch to a shittier system that's going to re-enslave us at a different level and in more ways just because the machine's getting too loud? Are you kidding me, man? Like that's weak. How can you even for somebody that's been in this space for so long and to not understand proof of work? And Nico, you provided an excellent thread from Dergigi, which we're going to dive into, which debunks all of the ridiculous nonsense that he just explained. We're going to dive into it, but I'm sorry, what were you going to say?
No, and the disappointing part about this is that, look, he's saying essentially the same thing that the World Economic Forum is saying. He's saying, like, that's not good. He's on the same side as the machine, and who's paying him? And here's the unfortunate part, and I want you guys to at least take this from this video, is that wealthy people that are in crypto have the most to benefit from a proof of stake system, because a proof of stake system essentially allows them to change the monetary policy depending on how much stake they have, depending on how many tokens, depending on how many coins they have more influence over the network. What does that sound like to you? That sounds like the system we have today. What makes Bitcoin special is the proof of work. Proof of work is what makes Bitcoin uncorruptible, right? And without proof of work, you would have a corruptible network, and this is exactly what Gigi's thread is about to explain. He really explains the intricacies of it, but it pisses me off because these people owe their success to Bitcoin, but then they're doing exactly what Guy Swan came on the show to talk about, right? About essentially shitcoiners wanting their Lambos, and they have no problem killing Bitcoin in the process if it means more Lambos for them, but they don't realize that the innovation, the freedom enabling technology that happened when Satoshi invented Bitcoin was the proof of work. That's what makes sure that everyone plays fair, that nobody cheats, and that's what makes sure that someone with 1 Bitcoin and someone with 1 million Bitcoin have the same influence over the network. And that's what makes Bitcoin different than anything else that came before it. And honestly, anything else that came after it. And I just want to point one more thing out, is that Ethereum, that advocates, Vitalik advocates for something like proof of stake, it's still proof of work. They haven't gotten proof of stake to work yet, even though they've been calling for it for 4 years' time, right? This is just, man, and again, he's going to get a lot of likes. I saw the video had 244,000 views. It's going to get a lot of clicks because he's agreeing with the machine. He's agreeing with the establishment. Oh, it's too hard to fight them. We just have to go with it. Might as well, right? Forget about the economic incentive that proof of work provides, right? Proof of work could actually make sustainable energy profitable for the first time ever, right? Because Bitcoin miners could buy all of that excess energy even when there's no demand for it, right? So again, it's just freaking stupid, dude. Anyways, let's check out what Gigi has to say on all this.
Yeah, and before we dive into the thread, as you were talking, it made me think, right? Unlike a proof of stake system, having Bitcoin doesn't just automatically give you more Bitcoin. You have to continue to provide work and value if you want to increase your Bitcoin holdings, whereas with a shitcoin in a proof of stake system, you don't have to do anything. Anyways, let's dive into this thread.
Gigi says it best.
Yeah, Gigi definitely kills it. He's awesome. A failure to understand, this is a thread from Gigi. Here we go. A failure to understand proof of work is a failure to understand Bitcoin. Decentralized systems, by definition, do not have a single source of truth. Satoshi's breakthrough was to build a system that allows all participants to zero in on the same truth independently. Proof of work is what allows this to happen. The point of proof of work is to create an irrefutable history. If two histories compete, the one with the most work embedded in it wins. The chain with the most work is the truth by definition. This is what we call Nakamoto consensus. Why does this work? In short, because work requires energy. You can't cheat it. You can't argue with it. You can't lie about it. The proof that you did the work is self-evident in the outcome of the work. In Bitcoin, work is computation. Not any kind of computation, but computation that has no shortcut. Guessing. There is no shortcut because there is no progress. Every guess stands on its own. The beautiful thing is that the work itself is embedded in the solution. The data speaks for itself. The map is the territory. There is no external source of truth required. The work is implicit in the data due to the probabilistic nature of guessing. Other mechanisms, such as proof of stake, don't have this property. You can never be sure that what you're looking at is actually the truth, since there is no external cost to create an alternative truth. Computation is only bridge between the realm of information to the physical realm. When dealing with information, all we have is information and the transformation of information, computation. Computation requires energy. Energy is the bridge. Energy is real. Remove this bridge to the physical world and you will stay in fantasy land. You can't tell what actually happened. You will have to trust others to tell you what happened. You can't verify it yourself. You have to rely on trust. Proof of stake has plenty of other problems, such as fair validator selection, who decides, naturally centralizing effects, more stake equals more reward equals more stake, and having no natural resistance to timestamp manipulation attacks, for example. Proof of work solves exactly these problems. It decentralizes the selection process, creates physical proof of what happened, has real externalized costs, and decentralizes time.
Awesome.
So look, I think Dergigi explained it best. I don't know how much more I can possibly riff or add on it. It is the chain of truth. That's why, we also call it truth chain, right? Because that's also what it is. Okay? That's what Bitcoin is. It's mathematical truth all the time. None of these other shitcoins offer that. Okay? So this, I know we're going to sound like total tinfoil hatters, but this is part of the, the grand plot to get people to continue to use this same crappy system that can be centrally controlled and centrally manipulated all the time. Okay? We always tell you that Bitcoin is our only shot. We always tell you that this is our only chance. Like, we're not kidding. That's exactly what it is. Proof of work. You have to put in the work. Otherwise, it does not exist.
That's what keeps it fair, right? That's what keeps the system fair. That's what makes everyone equal, because it doesn't matter whether you're the president of the United States, the chairman of China, right? You know, the head of the European Union. You have to mine and spend that energy just like, not spend, use that energy just like everybody else. And anybody could plug in a miner and mine Bitcoin. The system is equal. In a proof of stake system, the person that has more ETH than you or more of that said token, they have a bigger influence over the network. You are not equal. And what does that sound like to you? That sounds like exactly the system we have today that we're fighting for. All the wealth inequality, where do you think that comes from? The money printer, right? All the corruption, where do you think that comes? The money printer. Bitcoin and its energy usage is the solution, and its energy usage is a feature, not a bug, and it's what it's going to propel humanity and civilization to its next stage, right? And if you want to fight it, so be it. But another thing that I want to comment about Bitboy is that this is one of the most popular crypto channels on YouTube. And it's channels like this is where we decided to start Simply Bitcoin, because I hate using this word, but the amount of misinformation that come, and they get hundreds of thousands of views because they come up with clickbaity titles saying, if you buy this token, this is the potential to make you the next billionaire, make you the next thing. We don't talk about this. We don't talk about the price on this channel. We don't talk about speculation. All we're doing is we try to provide you signal on what's happening on the revolution. Why don't we talk about shitcoins on this channel? Because that's noise. Yes, you can gamble. You can absolutely gamble, but be aware that you are gambling. That's what you're doing. Or, right, you could take part of the peaceful revolution that we're currently experiencing, right, where Bitcoin is essentially replacing the central bank system, right, the slavery system, right? We're already seeing rumblings from El Salvador. We're seeing people use Bitcoin and stablecoins. It sucks, right? But I think that they have this false conception that holding the US dollar is more stable than Bitcoin, even though in a long time, if you zoom out, that's not the case at all. But whatever, they'll learn the hard way. But the point is that people are using Bitcoin all around the world in countries that need Bitcoin the most, in Venezuela, in Turkey, in Nigeria, right? In totalitarian regimes, it's providing them, right, private property for the first time potentially in their lives, right? And how is all of this possible? Because it's an uncorruptible money whose monetary policy is set in stone. It could not be changed. And that's all thanks to the decentralized node network all around the world and the miners, the proof of work, which is why we always say in the beginning of the show, we hope the hash rate, meaning the amount of energy put into the Bitcoin network, goes up forever, because if that's the case, the harder Bitcoin becomes to attack, the more uncorruptible it becomes to the machine. The machine actually has to spend real life money and energy to try to fuck with Bitcoin. And that's what you want as a human being. Do you not want uncorruptible money? Or do you want more of the bullshit that we've been experiencing as a civilization for hundreds, if not thousands of years, right? Where the central authority is able to debase your time, your energy, your work. That's what makes Bitcoin special. And people like him, even with such a big fucking influence, do not understand that. And that's absolutely terrifying. Anyways, some thoughts.
Yeah, man. No, absolutely. I think you said it best. And being in the space this long, not understanding the importance of proof of work.
Who's paying him?
And then simply laying down. Simply laying down and saying, you know what, they're all getting too loud. Everybody's getting too loud.
No one's better than their incentive. Who's paying him, dude?
Exactly.
Who's paying him, Phil? What shitcoin sponsored him to say that? because people like him
wonder.
that have all those followers you saw, dude. Solana approached me and they said they wanted Bitvolt to get associated because they want that brand association. I can't even imagine someone that has 1 million subscribers on YouTube, what companies, what shitcoins would be willing to pay him to sell their garbage. I can't even imagine. But anyways, what's the next fail, dude?
Okay.
Gets me so riled up.
It was terrible. It was brutal. Watching that video, like I couldn't even. I mean, we had to watch the whole thing for the show, but I tried to watch it before and I couldn't. Anyways, okay, let's dive into the next one, which talking about shitcoins, Nico. Talking about things that don't require work. Okay, so we were tagged by Carl_21M. Thank you. All right, on this fail, and this is right out of the World Economic Forum, Nico. This is they are getting good. So check this out, right? What we were just talking about, we just went through that whole nice long thread from Dergigi explaining the importance of proof of work, why it works, why it's needed, okay? So this goes back to what we were talking about, tokens that don't require any kind of work and that just are, but what they do have is a narrative. And what's really dangerous about this type of narrative, to me anyways, this is the kind of confusing, divisive shit that keeps everybody actually separated. This is inclusion, okay? This is inclusion, or actually I should say this is divisive, separation under the guise of inclusion. That's the way I see it, okay? Anyways, this is a tweet from the World Economic Forum. Here we go. We're not going to watch the whole thing. I just want to show the beginning and raise funds for climate justice and gender equality. World of Women to organize auctions. Okay.
There's nothing wrong with there's nothing wrong those I'm cheering those women to succeed, but I think that they're using the wrong tools. Anyways.
Hold on. So what's disingenuous is the idea. Okay, is the idea that a token or NFT or anything like that is geared towards helping specifically any one of these causes. Bitcoin is everyone and anyone who chooses to use it for their cause. So these artists, okay, if they want to truly hold proper money that has the characteristics that they need, because they're talking about artists in third world countries, mind you, okay, then you know what? They can go and sell real art and get Bitcoin on a place like scarce.city, okay, where they can sell real art, not fake internet art, but real art, right? Because I'm pretty sure those people have much more access to real materials than they all do laptops and stuff like that, right? And I'm pretty sure they don't all have Photoshop subscriptions and shit like that. Okay, they can go over here, they can make real art, and they can get actual Bitcoin. And Bitcoin doesn't have to sell you a narrative. Okay, it doesn't have to sell you the narrative about gender equality or climate justice. Okay, you can simply earn Bitcoin, and if you believe in those things, okay, you can decide to go out and do something towards those things using Bitcoin. It doesn't need to be a shitcoin. It doesn't need to be an NFT. That's my whole thing behind that. And that's why I think it's disingenuous, because, and again, it's coming from the World Economic Forum, because why do you think they want you using that? Why do you think they want you using that platform? Those platforms? Because they can control those platforms. They can monitor those platforms. They can ensure that those platforms are quote unquote inclusive. That is the most psychotic, hypocritical crap I've ever heard. Okay? It's exclusion by inclusion. It's the strangest thing I've ever seen, where they pretend to be all inclusive, but it's only inclusive to what their narratives are. Bitcoin doesn't care. Like, yeah, we sit here and we talk about Bitcoin and stuff like that, but not everybody's like us, right? Not everybody cares about Bitcoin 24/7. Not everybody sits there and wants to be on Twitter and look at memes all day long and stuff like that. Not everybody wants that. Everybody has their own life. They all have their own desires. Okay, like it's just the most ridiculous garbage. I can't believe the nonsense that we're putting up with. And this is from the World Economic Forum. This isn't even from anyways, this is total clown world.
Anyone else find it funny that the people that say you own nothing and be happy are also shilling NFT. And not only that, they're against Bitcoin. So the people that don't want you to own nothing and be happy are actively shilling NFTs and altcoins, but they're against Bitcoin. I think that's the signal. I think that's what you need to pay attention to. And yeah, man, it's just it's a giant misdirection play, and these people are absolutely evil. And you know what, Phil? They're created, a lot of these world elites, right? They're created by the Cantillon effect, right? By the money printer. And because the money printer, essentially what it does every time the government prints money, it's a redistribution of wealth from the have-nots and the middle class to the elites and the state. So if you really want to help women, wouldn't you want them to own a currency, a unit of account, wealth? Wouldn't you want their wealth to be in something that can't be debased, can't be easily confiscated, you can send to anybody freely without having to ask anybody for permission, including a man, right, to anybody around the world? Wouldn't you want them in that? But no, you're shilling them something that, look how insidious this is. You're shilling them something, you're advertising, and you're using race, which is so low, right? You're shilling them something that can that can be manipulated. It can be copied, right? And the reason that they're doing that is because it can be controlled and it could be manipulated by them. And if it could be manipulated by them, it has the stamp of approval. When do we find out Bitboy is sponsored by the World Economic Forum? When? Huh?
You hit the nail on the head. Absolutely. And you know what? It's these it's these disingenuous narratives that people, most of us, get fooled on. Okay. And this goes back to my earlier point. I'm sorry, but the whole inclusion, I think it's complete hypocritical nonsense. It pretends to be inclusive, but what it does, okay, is it actually singles everything out and makes everything painfully, and makes everything, how could I say this, like a hill to die on, right? Like all of a sudden this needs to be an issue, but it's not an issue. It's just an issue because they're bringing it up and it's being created that there is some type of an issue. And it's the most ridiculous nonsense I've ever heard. Bitcoin is for everyone. It doesn't care what you believe. It doesn't care what you think you are, what you are. It doesn't care. You go out and you decide to either mine it or you decide to purchase it. You learn about hodling. You learn about running Bitcoin Core. You learn about having a hardware wallet. That's it. It doesn't care about any of these things. By these organizations making things about your gender, about your race, about climate change, about all of these things, you know something? What they're doing is they're creating division. And they're sowing the roots of the confusion. That's truly what I believe. Anyways.
Dude, 100%. They're hiding behind moral virtue to seem virtuous. Anyways, Phil, it's time for the Daily Meme Review. The Daily Meme Review is brought to you by Citadel 21. It's pure Bitcoin signal. You're not going to get any freaking noise here or shitcoins. And there's only 1,000 copies made per volume. It's stories, articles by toxic Bitcoiners. Get your print of Citadel 21 today. Leave it to the plebs to meme the fuck out of this. Ben Armstrong, when are you going to announce that you're sponsored by the World Economic Forum? Anyways, check out this tweet, or this meme by the pleb. Bitcoin, shitcoins. That's absolutely right. Right? They appear, right? And you're always going to get that one pistachio that you think there's a pistachio inside, but it happens to be empty. That's what a shitcoin is. Anyways, moving on to next one. By Abuelito Panama. Please, Bitcoin, don't tip anymore. Do you want me to sell the blanket as well? I think we all felt that way the last couple of days. Anyways, next meme by Pub Lord. The Bitcoin Week in Review. Bitcoin. Stock to flow and on-chain analysis. That's absolutely hilarious. This is a meme. It really is a meme. It's by the president of El Salvador. And of course, he's talking about the price. He's working at McDonald's. Nayib, absolutely hilarious. Moving on to the next one. And it's replying, you leave it up to the plebs, man. Bitcoinator, Michael, the fries at table 34K. Wait, I'm holding the stupid balloons. Absolutely hilarious. Super freaking hilarious. Anyways, by Honk Hogan. This is a bank run from 1930s. And if you guys don't know what a bank run is, essentially, the banks don't have all your cash, right? They loan that. Well, not even anymore, because since last year there's a 0% reserve rate. But before that, right, banks only had to hold a certain amount of your actual cash, right? The rest they loaned out to people. So what happened in the 1930s is that everyone went to the bank and asked for their money all at once, and essentially that the banks didn't have it, and it just caused the banks to freeze up, and that's called a bank run. And because that happened, the federal government essentially replied with the FDIC insurance that you see at any bank that you go. You'll see it by the teller. It says your deposit is insured by up to $250,000, right? But it's insured by what? It says by the full faith by the United States federal government. What are they going to do? They're just going to print it. It's all fictitious. Anyways, and I love it. And this is why it's so important to take self-custody, right? Binance, Coinbase, Kraken, where's our Bitcoin? They don't have it. Paper manipulation. This is so true. The only way that you know for a fact that you have your Bitcoin is by taking Bitcoin into self-custody and making sure that the addresses that you actually look and you say, okay, I have the private key to those addresses. How do you know for sure? By running your own node, by having your own copy of the blockchain and not having to rely on anybody else. That's what you should do. But anyways, for those awesome scores, Phil, I'm going to give it a shiatsu foot massage thing.
Ooh.
Yeah, that I have under my desk. What about you?
Dude, we are in sync today. You know what I'm going with? Rechargeable heated insoles.
Oh,
and you know what? They're even controlled with a remote.
You took those off for the show? Wow.
Oh, I'm still charging them.
Oh, okay. See, he wouldn't take them off for the show.
No. That's the point. That's the point.
Anyways, guys, we want to know, do you agree with our scores? Do you disagree? Let us know down in the comment section. And of course, join our Telegram group. Link us some Bitcoin memes to review. Because a Bitcoin meme review, we need memes to review. And subscribe to us on alternative video platforms, because we do make fun of the World Economic Forum, like rumble.com and our personal favorite, bitcointv.com. It's our favorite because it's Bitcoin TV and they don't censor there. It's Bitcoin TV. Anyways, Phil, it's time for the daily news. All right, so we talk about the better flag theory of Bitcoin. What is that? Essentially, Bitcoin empowers the individual, right? So on a physical level, right, you're going to be able to take your money with you. You're not only are you able to vote with your feet, but you're also able to vote with your wallet. Bitcoin allows you to cross borders, and you can memorize a 12-word seed phrase, and you could take billions, if not trillions of dollars in your mind. And it also creates a better flag theory when it comes to Bitcoin exchanges or companies that offer Bitcoin to buy, right? Robinhood, we all know, right? This is where all the Zoomers and millennials were buying the GameStop stonks and all that stuff, right? And they offered Bitcoin. How could they not? They're missing out on all that revenue, right? Same as PayPal. PayPal chose to ignore Bitcoin in the beginning, but they had to offer it. Why? Because Cash App was doing it. Well, PayPal had to offer users to be able to withdraw their Bitcoin. Why? Because Cash App was offering that. And now that Cash App and PayPal allow their users to withdraw Bitcoin, that forces people that don't allow their users to withdraw Bitcoin, like Robinhood, to offer withdrawals, right? That's exactly what's happening with Robinhood. We do not recommend you buying Bitcoin on Robinhood, because what you're buying right now is paper Bitcoin. And I'm just going to go back to this awesome meme by Hulk Hogan to remind you what could potentially happen when you don't take self-custody. You're relying on someone else to custody that Bitcoin for you, and that takes away the most special power of Bitcoin, is being able to store, taking self-custody, right? It's insane. You've never been able to store so much wealth in your mind, ever. Anyways, so a little suspicious things here. Let's check it out. Some users, right, can now withdraw their Bitcoin from Robinhood. The feature is rolling out in phases to those on the wait list. So let's go back to this. So Phil, you see these people with the top hats in front, but they're the darker top hats? Those are some of the users. The people over here are on the wait list, and that's everybody else. So just
That's
to kind of
accurate.
give you guys a real life analogy of what the fuck this sounds like, Robinhood said it expects to roll out the feature to 10,000 customers by March. Right? Why are they rolling out a feature? Do they not have the Bitcoin already? Questions. Just questions, right? Anyways, let's get to the actual news because this was just a little bullet point. Anyways, this is an awesome tweet by Nayib Bukele. This is Brussels, the administrative center of the European Union, and they dare to say El Salvador is a dictatorship. Remember, if you've been listening to mainstream media, I don't call them mainstream media anymore. We don't call them mainstream media. They're really legacy media. Joe Rogan is getting more viewers, right? So legacy media, corporate media, captured media, whatever you want to call it, they would like you to believe that El Salvador is a dictatorship. Why? Because they made Bitcoin legal tender, obviously. But remember what we've always been saying on the show. Why is there protest? Why is there giant protests in all over Europe and some in the United States, I might add? But there's very little protests in El Salvador. But wait a second. He's a dictator. What's going on? Anyways, let's take just a little tiny short view of the video. Pretty sure they don't have those big water trucks in El Salvador. But hey,
Nico, it's a parade. It's a parade, and they're just hydrating the crowd.
that's true. The crowd is thirsty.
The crowd is thirsty. They're just hydrating.
They're just thirsty for freedom. Anyways, moving on. Next tweet, and I'm gonna tell you why this is awesome in a second, okay? Because this might seem like noise. This is Nayib Bukele meeting with the President of Turkey Erdoğan. Let's see him walking out.
Merhaba asker.
So he said buy Bitcoin in Turkish. No, just kidding. Okay, but what happened, right? So this is like, the formal, that they roll out the military parade when a head of state visits the country. That's normal. Every country does it. Nation states, whatever. Anyways, why is this important? Why am I talking about this? Because Turkey just suffered, right, a near 20-year high as inflation near 20-year high, right? Turks are being hit by some of the worst inflation they've ever experienced, even though they're familiar with it. We've covered it on an earlier episode, right, where we essentially said, there was evidence that Turks are fleeing, right, to, I hate using this word, but cryptocurrencies. They're using stable coins and Bitcoin, right, to kind of hedge themselves, to save themselves from inflation. So is it too much of a stretch to say that Nayib Bukele potentially brought up this thing that's happening in his country called Bitcoin to the President of Turkey when they met? Is that too much of a stretch? I don't know. And it looks like Turkey would need something like Bitcoin, but I'm going to leave you a thought before you guys get it too excited. And I actually tweeted this out about a week or so ago. I think that heads of state would rather their populations stay poor if it means them stay in power, to be honest. So before you get too excited, just, have that in your mind. And also one thing to incorporate is that El Salvador never had their own currency, right? It's not like Turkey that has their own, they have the lira, even though I'm going to pull up this chart because it's something to definitely talk about. Even though their currency has gone down 99.3% towards Bitcoin, they still have their shitcoin that if they convince people to use, that actually empowers the government. So if you're like the president of Turkey and you could dictate the monetary policy and enslave and potentially capture some of the work, some of the energy from your population by tricking them into using your currency by money by decree, right? Where's the incentive to come up with to essentially make Bitcoin legal tender? And if you compare that to El Salvador was using the dollar. So they didn't get to dictate their monetary policy. In fact, their monetary policy was dictated by the United States. And every time the United States would print, El Salvador would actually get poorer. So El Salvador had every incentive to look at Bitcoin and be like, we're going to give that a shot. But someone who's kind of authoritarian, kind of a dictator like Erdoğan, maybe perhaps he doesn't like the freedom enabling technology that Bitcoin brings. I don't know. But let's see. Anything's possible, but I don't get your hopes up, Phil.
Yeah, I mean, he's already expressed that he, that he doesn't like quote unquote cryptocurrencies. Like they've already expressed that they're a government that is not.
No, it's worse. He declared war on Bitcoin specifically.
Well, I know he uses the harsh word of war, but it's. Anyways, yes, exactly, right? I mean, look, they're not friendly towards Bitcoin. They're definitely not friendly towards shitcoins. I mean, who cares anyways, because they're shitcoins. But look, do I believe, would I like to believe that a government would do the right thing for its people and give them money that would actually retain value, considering the people in that government are people that are in that country and part of that country? I'd love to believe that. But to your point, I think that these leaderships, like governments like that, listen, no one is going to work themselves out of a job. No one is going to tell everyone else, you don't need to pay me for what I'm doing for you. Okay? Especially not a government that retains an incredible amount of power. So look, did Nayib Bukele talk about Bitcoin to them? I would like to say he did. But I think that if the Turkish government is going to look at Bitcoin, they are going to look at it for their own pockets and their own means to fight what they are perpetrating on their own people. This is something that was said by somebody in Bitcoin way smarter than me long before me, but it's the governments that censor the most that require censorship-resistant money the most. So, when we look at these governments, right, that are doing this, look, they're going to want Bitcoin the most, and they're going to tell their population to eat the crap, but they're going to hoard the corn.
They're absolutely going to hoard the corn. That's very true. Very true. But anyways, Phil, there was an open source software release today. Why don't you tell everybody about it?
Software releases. The software releases are brought to you by CipherSafe. Check them out, cyphersafe.io, the safest way to store your seed. I've got the Cypher Grid over here, comes with the punch tool and the tamper-resistant wire, and the Cypher Wheel, which I just banged my mic with. All right, we've got Mercury Wallet version 0.5.9 that was released. It's down below in the show notes. We say it every episode. Rain or shine, we drop episodes Monday through Saturday unless we post differently. Look for our audio-only episodes on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Anchor. I don't know why that was so tough.
Awesome. Thank you, Phil. All right, guys, that was our show. If you enjoyed the show, you know what to do. Smash that like button. And, of course, if you want to continue hearing the Bitcoin news from actual freaking Bitcoiners, definitely consider hitting that subscribe button. And we'll see you tomorrow, guys, for a brand new episode of Listen to Bitcoin.
Don't get fooled by all the ridiculous narratives. Bitcoin is for everyone and anyone.